Well, hello, folks. Pastor Rocky Branch, Spruce Pine First Baptist Church. Today is day 288. 288 as we face yet another day. At the beginning, I'd just like to mention to you that we had a very sad thing to happen yesterday. Our cat of almost 15 years left us. He just went on in a very peaceful way. We walked in and he was in a box. He slept in a box a lot because he just liked a box, and there he lay, no life. And I buried him yesterday and put a cross up. It was a sad time, very sad time. We've had him a long time. But and he was cross-eyed too. He's a kind of interesting cat. Miss Janice has had animals ever since I've known her, and this was a tough one. We knew he was sick and he'd been down. We'd had him checked out and everything. He just was weary and tired. And so anyway, that's sort of a sad thing, but nonetheless, we understand that, things happen for reasons. And as those reasons happen in your life, you have to respond to them. And of course, with tears and all that stuff that went on yesterday, we move on to, it's early in the morning now. Miss Janice dead asleep, but we'll move on and we'll go forward. One of the things I do want to mention, of course, is Friday, and the end of the week has come upon us, and our people will be leaving that have come to us this last week. We missed that already because we get to see them from, each day, feeding them and so forth and so on. So it's just sort of a sad time with them leaving also, knowing that they've got to, knowing they're going to get back home, get in their own bed, which is always great, of course. Paul says something here in the first chapter in the book of Philippians. He says in verse number 12, "But I would not have you to misunderstand, brethren, that the things which happened unto me have fallen out rather unto the furtherance of the gospel." Now, what Paul is saying is that his desire for his people, his listeners, if you will, his churches, he started, a number of churches, a bunch of them. He wrote 14 books of the New Testament, if you believe he wrote Hebrews, and I do. So there's, a lot that's well over, there's only 27 books in the New Testament, so there's 14 that Paul writes. So what he's saying to the people is, I want you to understand that what the suffering that I go through is to further the gospel of Jesus Christ. So then I have to look at that a second. So the suffering then is, I can do all things through Christ. He writes that in Philippians. He also reminds us that what he is going through is to accomplish a goal to keep the gospel going. So then I have to ask myself that question for me. Things I am going through, things you are going through. Am I trying to further the gospel with these things that happen in my life? How can I use situations, circumstances, even the death of a cat? How can you use that as the furtherance of the gospel? Well, God can give you peace. He can give you fulfillment. He can bless you. He can help you. He can speak to you. He can speak through you. So many things. And Paul says it this way. He says, "Brethren, I would that you should understand." I want you to understand what's going on here. He says, "The things which happened unto me." Now, when you look at this verse, it's important to understand that Paul didn't cause these problems. He said the things that happened to me, which the things that happened to him are responding to what he's doing. And the happening part is his faithfulness to the Lord, and then the response of that comes back in negativity based on the people he was around, the things he was doing. So we find ourselves in the challenging spot to ask ourselves the question, am I trying, as he says here, to further the gospel The gospel, of course, is good news. So am I wanting to further the gospel, to make it a better place, to make the world a better place, to make me in the position where I can witness someone to make their place better? That's the whole point. So Paul reminds us that his sufferings are but yet a minor affliction compared to what God can do with the faithful ones that stand in his name. And that's you and me. That's our responsibility, to stand in Jesus' name and stand faithful. And we can witness incredible things happening in the lives of people if we will stay faithful to the Lord. And there's things that happen into our lives always. We have to deal with those things and trust God and move on, because that's the whole point of faith. The whole point of faith is dealing with what you're dealing with, but trusting God and moving on with it. That's the whole point. So let me encourage you today on Friday, on the 11th day of July, to be about the Father's business. And I'll say this kind of funny. We went to the Sheriff's Department yesterday to get our concealed carry renewal. They called us and said we need to do that. So we went over there, got fingerprinted and all that stuff you fill out. And the guy that was doing the thing, Ronald, good guy, he helped us in our church when this sort of first thing started happening with the flood and everything. He's filling out my information. He's getting this, and this, and height and weight and all that stuff. And then he looks over and he says eyes, and he looks at my eyes and he puts that down. And then he says hair. Well, I have my hat on. I have the Hope for Mitchell County hat on. I take the hat off and he says, oh, gray. I said, what? What you talking about gray? Miss Janice has been telling me that my hair's gray for a while. I said, well, first of all, I'd tell her later, earlier on, I'd say, hey, I earned it, being married to you and pastoring the churches for all these years. But that was kind of a funny thing, because my birthday's coming up on the 17th and I'll be 66. So when, I'm thinking gray hair, okay. Anyway, it was a fun moment, if I may say. So, what we want to do is further the gospel. That's the whole point. However you do it, make sure you further it, because it's got a ways to go, and we're the people to spread it. And if you do that, God will bless you for it. Thank you, and God bless you.